Okay, so to continue a little bit from that last video about what I meant a bit more particularly is that, well, maybe not more particularly, but to let's just expound upon it a little bit more. It's a new recording the car video, I don't know. I think the angle's fine. Basically, you want your material, assuming that you want, success, etc., right? You want your material to exist in a mainstream context. And what I mean by that is, a lot of guys sort of fall into this trap where they, maybe not a trap, but they'll make things that are sort of just little bits and pieces that don't necessarily have an underlying theme or continuity such that it becomes sort of a thing in and of itself that's interesting when somebody views it, right? It's more of like a part of something that's not necessarily the thing itself. So like, what I mean by that is, like, guys on like their Instagram pages, TikTok, whatever, you'll see that they'll have like little bits and bobs and pieces of things that they'll make. I'm talking more about the normal visual stuff. That's what I do. So, but they'll make like these little 5-second sort of clips or whatever, and they don't necessarily have like I said, like an underlying thing that makes it feel like it's a thing in itself, but it feels like it's like a disparate part of something. It should be a part of something else, right? But it's just like a little piece. It doesn't really fit into like its own context. And this whole idea of like the mainstream context is you want your material to have the chance, if it is seen, to fit within a sort of popular environment, right? You don't want fucking just to make little bits and pieces that are sort of discontinuous and have them just sort of exist. You can start off doing that for like practice and stuff, but you don't necessarily need to post that stuff, or if you do, like, do it in a way that's like, that makes it, I guess my whole point is that everything that you do should be building up towards more of a larger thing. You shouldn't just be doing things just for the sake of doing it. You should have a much larger thing, sort of. And ideally, you want to have a structure set up such that everything that you do makes this sort of thing bigger. And I guess a similar concept is like this whole idea you sort of see. It's like, I'm like a guy who has like niche interests, and I collect niche like knowledge tidbits from here and there, but I don't have like, right, like there was this meme, like whatever, like what was it? It was one of those like like it was on Twitter. It's like late diagnosed autistic, and it were signs and it's like Steam library full of blah blah blah, not niche knowledge, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. And my advice is, if you're somebody who is one of those dudes that collects that sort of niche knowledge or whatever, is you need to create a substrate that connects all of that stuff to a larger idea, a larger concept, right? And ideally form your own style through that. That's sort of the idea, not just like making little tits and bobs or whatever that don't necessarily contribute to the larger scale of things, and you're just sort of doing it just to do it. Because that stuff, sure, it might get like, and let's say one of those things is successful, right? And by successful, I mean, let's say it gets a certain amount of views or whatever, right? Like in its own little thing. Let's say it's like a TikTok. That doesn't really give you much to create a sort of identity with. But that's also part of it as well. This whole idea, this whole style idea that I'm talking about having these things that connect everything, is that you want it to create a sort of identity that people can see it and be like, oh yeah, this is like, this is this person's thing. This is this person's steez, right? And it's very important that you do that, because otherwise you're just going to be sort of they're not going to know you. They're going to know like that little bit, right? I don't know. It was kind of maybe not the best way of explaining that. I probably could have been a little bit more precise. But I don't know, I kind of fuck with just recording these little car videos. It's basically what it is, like car videos. Is there anything else I want to say? Yeah, just think of the larger picture, Think of the larger picture, pretty much.